personally had a lot of people come and visit my farm over here, and they all comment as soon as they get here. How do you manage to keep your farm without a serious, terrible smell? And guys, I'll tell you the honest truth. I personally actually didn't even know that a smelling farm is an issue until I started moving around and visiting farmers. Because for me personally, I can very easily and comfortably sit and stand anywhere around my farm. That's why actually I do have a house next to the chicken house, because smells are not an issue for me. I can stand right here and I don't have a problem. I can actually eat food from the inside of the chicken houses. Occasionally, guys, I'll tell you the truth, I'll find the guys inside the chicken houses on a phone call with their family, standing there for 40 minutes on a phone call with their family. That's because it's so conducive in there, yeah? The air inside there is so beautiful. So if you're personally having issues with smells on your farm, well, in today's video, we want to end it once and for all, completely gone. Now first, we need to identify what the problem is. The problem is manure that is smelling. The thing that smells for you is actually manure. The chickens produce droppings, those droppings fall down, and the smell comes out in one way. So for you to be able to smell the smell, you know, the terrible smell, one of three things has to happen. Number one, the manure itself has to generate a bad smell, okay? Number two, that smell needs to be captured by the atmosphere, you know, get into the atmosphere. And number three, that atmospheric air has to be driven towards you, towards where your receptors are. That's in the nose, where you can smell it from. So if we can actually manage to cut one or more of those steps, then we solve the entire problem, because we shall not smell any manure anymore. So what we're going to do is, let's go inside the actual place where the terrible smells are, and then see how we can solve it. So we'll take the ramp. Here is our food dip, disinfect our feet, and then we'll take the ramp to go in. Okay? So this is our door right here. So here is our chicken house, guys, and we are now on the inside of the chicken house. It's very comfortable, very, very comfortable. So this is the inside of the chicken house, and this is, oh, here is a docile chicken. It wants to be mated, but hey, I'll not mate you. So this is our litter inside. This is litter, which is actually a mixture of the chicken droppings and wood shavings, yeah? So at the beginning of the flock, we place inside here wood shavings, and they slowly start mixing with the manure, and that's what forms this. And guys, I want you to know that since I brought these birds and chickens inside here, we've never changed the litter. We've never removed this litter and replaced it with new litter. Never. It's the same litter that's inside here. The only thing that we ever do is reduce the amount of litter which is inside and bring in a few wood shavings to replace it, because we don't want it to get too heavy. Yeah? So let's go into the actual causes of smells, and as we mention each cause, we shall actually mention the solutions. So right there, you can see a drinker. Those are chickens drinking water. Can you see them? That's a drinker. So the first biggest cause of smells inside the chicken house is having wet manure or wet litter, yeah? So if a chicken is drinking water and then the water starts pouring down here, yeah, and this place becomes wet, you can see that it's not wet for us, yeah? It's not wet. But when this place becomes wet, then you have an issue of wet litter. And wet litter will start smelling, yeah? So the way you prevent against wet litter inside the chicken house is by, number one, raising your drinkers, making sure that your drinkers are at the level of the back of the chicken, number one. Number two, using good quality drinkers. You can see my drinkers, they are automated. You can see they're the ones hanging over there. Those are automated drinkers, and they help in that I don't need to worry about pouring the water inside the drinkers. I know that the drinkers are going to autofill. The chickens are not going to move and knock them and topple them over, and the water is going to start pouring inside the chicken house, yeah? So get a good quality type of drinker, automated drinkers, and make sure that they are raised to the correct level. Make sure they are well controlled so that the water is not overflowing. And once you solve the problem of wet litter, that is solved. The other thing that you can do is that you can see my sides over here, yeah? They are open. Another thing that commonly causes wet litter is when rain enters the chicken house. You go to people's farms and rain enters the chicken house. When rain enters the chicken house, of course, the litter is going to get wet. And that not only produces for you a problem of wet litter, but it also risks bringing coccidiosis into your chicken farm, because wet litter is going to lead to increased growth of coccidia, and then you're going to get diseases into your chicken house. So what you need to do is that make sure, like me, as you can see, the roof moves over to the side and rain cannot come into the chicken house. Rain has never come into this chicken house, and so I don't have wet and smelling litter. Now the second big issue is if the amount of bedding inside the chicken house is not enough. Yeah, so we'll try digging to the bottom of where my bedding stops. Guys, you can see how deep it is. I'm still digging. I finally managed to get to the bottom. Yeah, but you can see how deep it is to get to the bottom. Literally my hand can fit inside here. So a lot of farmers, the biggest issue they face is that they place very little litter inside the chicken house, and that means, you know, you can see these are wood shavings. These right here, the rough things, yeah? These are wood shavings, yeah? And they mix with the chicken droppings. So if you place just a little bit of wood shavings inside your chicken house, what that means is that you're going to have very little of the carbon, you know, of the litter to mix with the droppings. And literally all you're going to have is undiluted droppings. If you don't have undiluted droppings, undiluted manure, what that is going to do is that it's going to create a huge, terrible smell inside your chicken house. A terrible smell. You'll visit some farmers and they'll only have a centimeter, in fact even less than a centimeter of litter inside their chicken house. That's very pathetic. That's very, very bad. So what I always advise people is that if you're a layers farmer, have 4, 5, 6 inches of litter inside your chicken house, so that it can mix with the manure. That way you can keep your litter inside your chicken house literally until the end. For me, I cannot. I need to keep reducing because this house is raised and the material I used to construct the house is probably not the strongest because I used wooden poles. So I need to make sure that it doesn't weigh down so much on the structure. So I keep reducing the amount of manure inside to take it outside so that the house becomes lighter. Yeah. So that's something I also advise people. Use a huge amount of litter inside your chicken house, and that will reduce the smell for you. Now the third cause is usually faced by people who are in cages, not deep litter system. Actually, farmers in cages have worse encounters with terrible smells because they don't have any litter to dilute the manure. Yeah, they never have it. So the biggest issue with them is either there is water leakage into the manure from the top, you know, the drinking system. Yeah, water leaks into the manure, so it means that the manure is so wet. And number two, there's poor ventilation in the structure, and that means that the manure never gets to dry. Yeah, the manure never gets to dry. So wet manure is what will cause you very big issues. But in cages, it is even so difficult for manure to dry. You know, it's just going to keep piling up there. It's going to remain wet. Even if you have the best ventilation, sometimes it will remain wet. So what we usually advise people is to have machines. They're usually scrapers these days that come on the new types of cages that can scrape away the manure every day. Every day, just scrape away the manure, and it's dumped into a place where you can use it to make biogas or whatever else you want. Throw it in a garden somewhere, sell it to people, but it's not available in the chicken house. So that's another solution, especially for people in cages. Then the fourth thing is spilled or moldy feed. Now, again, in deep litter, this is not something that I encounter a lot because in case feed spills, it will mix together with the litter. Also, even in cages, it wouldn't be an issue because in a lot of places, the feed that is served is actually dry feed. So it's unlikely that, you know, dry feed is going to cause you issues. Of course, it becomes an issue if people don't clean the place. The feed keeps spilling and people leave it over there, and then it starts smelling, it becomes moldy, and then all of a sudden it's going to become a problem. Yeah. So the best advice is that if you're in a place where feed is served, or maybe you serve your feed outside in the compound and your chickens are on free range, what you need to do is that if any feed is spilled, make sure you clean it, especially in cages. Yeah, because I've said in deep litter, the feed will mix together with the litter. But in cages, make sure that all feed that has spilled is cleaned away because it's going to create molds, and molds smell. They don't have a nice smell. Then another cause of smell is actually dust. Did you guys know that dust smells? Just enter a house that hasn't been dusted, a house that clearly has a lot of dust on the walls, on the windows and everything, and smell the inside of it. Dust smells because dust is dirt. Yeah, so chicken houses naturally produce dust because the chickens scratch on the inside, they jump around, even the feed itself produces dust. So if you have too much dust around your chicken house, it's going to cause the chicken house to smell. So how do you prevent that? By dusting the chicken house. This is something that a lot of farmers don't do, but it's something that can change the outlook of your farm a lot. So for me on the farm, the guys have a responsibility of dusting the farm, you know. The wire mesh that you see on the side, that wire mesh can actually hold a lot of dust, a lot of dust. So the guys have the responsibility of making sure that they are dusting it, they dust the equipment inside, you know, they just use brushes to heat and everything to make sure that the dust goes away. Once you deal with dust, you also reduce the likelihood of smells in your chicken house. And then another one, which actually is one of the biggest issues of smells on the farm, is poor ventilation. So you guys can see my chicken house right here. You can see how ventilated it is, yeah? The lower floor and the upper floor. There's a lot of space. Literally the entire length of the chicken house has an open space on both sides, both this side and the other side. Actually, you can see right through to the other side. And that's very important because once these gases are produced from the litter, once the chicken produces its droppings and they mix with the litter, and then some gases are produced, it means that there is air that will go through, you know, the wind will go through, air will go through, and it will dissipate the gases into the air. They will get into the air, and some gases like ammonia, once they get into air and they are dissipated, they immediately disappear. They are very volatile. They are very volatile. They immediately get diluted and disappear, and your place will not smell. So you need to make sure that your area is well ventilated, it's well aerated, to make sure that you get rid of all these pathetic and terrible smells on your farm. Another one is when people dump manure around their farms. Now this is very common and notorious for cage farmers. Yeah, after they remove the manure from their chicken houses, because when they don't have litter, they'll just get manure from their chicken houses and they just go and dump it somewhere. Of course your farm is going to smell if manure is just dumped somewhere. It's not covered, it's not buried. Yeah, you need to make sure that you dispose of your manure very safely and beautifully. For me, I'm very blessed that my chicken house is actually just deep litter, and I have a banana plantation next to me. So what I do is that every time I get manure inside from outside, I can just take it somewhere, let it to rest for some times, you know, so that the acidity goes away. And then after some time, I'll place it in the gardens, you know. I have a lot of garden space around, you know. I have maize that I grow, I have bananas that I grow, sometimes groundnuts, whatever. Once I place it in the gardens, for me it's very useful that way. Yeah, so make sure that it's covered, make sure it's in places where it's not just open and it then cause for you smells. And then lastly, improper disposal of dead animals. You know, it's a farm, so occasionally, inevitably, you're going to have animals die. Once in a while, you'll have a chicken die, a few chickens die. Those chickens, where do you dispose of them? Do you just throw them somewhere? Of course, once you throw away chickens anywhere, they're going to start decomposing, and once they start decomposing, they're going to smell, yeah, just like anything else that decomposes. So you need to make sure that dead animals are disposed of very properly. You know, you bury them very well in places that they cannot be picked up, maybe by wild animals, by dogs and things like that. So yes guys, I believe I've given you a proper template that can help you solve the problem of terrible smells on your farm. Once you do these things, you're going to be very safe and a happy farmer. Catch you very soon with another video. Bye bye.